Hey there, Workforce. Chris here with Work to Game, and today I'd like to take a look at what all came out with the first patch of Stormblood. Now, obviously by now you do know the MSQ has been extended to drive us into Omega. Without getting too much into spoilers, this is our first big content release of Stormblood. It was not unexpected. They often kind of hold back some of this content for a couple weeks to allow people to kind of enjoy everything they've given you, so you don't feel like those end-game people are forced to just rush straight into that big group content. This will be your first weekly raid. It will drop a Deltascape Crystalloid that'll allow you to trade in for some tomes. There's going to be, different gear that's released. This is when we're going to get Tomestones of Verity, and things like that are starting to get released. You're going to see the Savage mode probably drop in a couple weeks here, I would expect. And so this is really just rounding out everything that you expected when Stormblood itself launched. And one of the big changes in Stormblood was the battle system. So it's time for a few tweaks and things like that to hide behind, yes, they're giving us Omega, yes, they're giving us new gear and new mounts and new minions and all these cool new things right now. We're focused on that. But it's important that these patches include some little tweaks. Tank classes got the biggest change. They basically got enmity boosts across the board on a couple of abilities. You saw a Dark Knight ability get an increase in potency, a Warrior ability get a little decrease in cost. Mostly you're just seeing give those tanks a better ability to hold that threat. We have enmity being generated, but it's just going to be hard for them to keep up with all the burstiness and things like that we're seeing out of a lot of the DPS classes. Outside of that, Ninja got a little boost to their Bavakra ability, and Bard actually got their Troubadour ability, which allows you to have an additional effect on a song. Go ahead and go to themselves and the party. You'll have to let me know what you bards down there think of that. I don't main bard, so it just looked like a balance tweak to me. I don't know that it's that big of a deal. Now, as many of us start to see our eye levels just skyrocket, it is natural that they are also taking this as an opportunity to push mentors from requiring I-280 to requiring 295. Nothing here, I mean, Omega included, really should raise your eyebrows. This is all things that honestly could have been dropped with Stormblood, but it's nice that they kind of break this content up and let us kind of chew it a little bit at a time, because they don't want you getting that overwhelmed feeling. They don't want you worried about burnout. That's why they're still saving a few more things for the next patch. And then one of the bigger changes that has been made, PvP experience. Now, for those of you that have taken the time to dive into PvP, no matter your level, when you're down around that kind of 30 minimum, it's given about a quarter to a third of a level. By the time you get up closer to 70, it's more like an 11th. So there's obviously a scale there, but it is very, very, very rewarding. The problem with that is that anytime you create an ability to get experience with doing very little work required, then you end up with people abusing it. And so they have gone ahead and made a shift to where losing gives less experience and winning gives more experience, to hopefully make it a little less worth people's time to just run around and try to avoid getting kicked for being AFK. They're not contributing to the fights, they're not doing damage, they're not putting out healing. It's just straight up abuse of the system, and it's a bummer that we have to be treated like children sometimes, but it is what it is, and I think this is just a logical response to the fact that I was already seeing people that were just using this to farm experience without remotely making it fun for anybody else that happened to get tossed on their team. They also said there's a handful of bug fixes, little quest tweaks here and there, nothing big, not to be not grateful for what they're doing, but all of this has been expected. And then we start to get to all the content that they didn't want you to worry about while you were doing 1 to 70 on your main, or maybe a couple of classes, maybe trying out Red Mage. We're finally starting to see things like now crafters can get scripts. I really didn't get to dive into crafting nearly as deeply at the advanced level in Heavensward as I would have liked. So I'm hoping that in Stormblood I can make a bigger stab at that. And so you can have up to 2,000 of these. The vendor is already there in Rhalgr's reach. And we're starting to see crafters and gatherers get up to that cap, at least on my server, and you're starting to see the markets kind of stabilize, and there is a lot of excitement appearing in this kind of new end game as that population grows. Now with Omega, you're going to see things like new minions, new mounts, all sorts of stuff just kind of start to appear as we get out of that loot table. I didn't look into it too heavily because I don't really want it spoiled. I'd like to just, every time I run Omega, go, ooh, neat, that's really cool. So I'm sure that's out there to be found. I just didn't personally want to spoil it for myself as I get into my first Omega runs. And with that, it's time for them to start responding to the community. You PS4 players out there had been asking for some things like I want to make my font sizes different and all of that. And there was a few options in the menus, but now there's going to be more options in the menus. So if there is something about your UI on PS4 that you didn't like, go ahead and take a look, because they made a few neat changes, and it'd be awesome if that was exactly what you were looking for. So what does this patch mean as a whole? It doesn't sound like I said anything too eventful outside of Omega and maybe some stuff for the crafters. We still don't have ranked PvP, we still don't have housing, we still don't have a lot of things that I was going to expect in Stormblood. We don't have two types of tomes competing with each other. We don't have any of the things that we would have associated with being in a mid-cycle of an expansion. It is still very, very early in Stormblood. What it means is that the PvP system is working. It is settling down. They're making minor tweaks, which means that we can actually anticipate a ranked PvP in the near future. I don't know what near means. Maybe it makes sense to drop it with the Savage content. It also feels like it's starting to settle down. MyQ Times, while they are still there, are dropping into more steady things because I think people are just playing within their normal schedule. The binge players are kind of getting that worked out of their system. And with the sheer amount of content that dropped with Stormblood, I think it would be a little greedy to hope for more in this patch, but that's just my personal opinion. I still feel that there's plenty here to chew on, and I don't need to focus on the handful of things that I'll get in later patches. There's a lot of great content out there that we know is going to come down the line, but I am mostly focused on the fact that I still don't have Red Mage to 70, and I do want to try it in in-game content. And so that kind of drives me to, well, what do you guys think of this? This is our first patch of Stormblood. It sets the tone for kind of, are the patches going to feel different than they have in the past? I don't really think they do, but I think that's not a bad thing. I'm really excited about where Stormblood is, and I would love to hear what you guys are looking forward to. Maybe what you're already thinking of Omega, what classes you're finding that you like playing the most with some of the big changes. Definitely let us know in the comments below. Brian and I would love to start that conversation there with you. If you are getting stuck on Omega, Brian actually has a couple of videos already up, so go ahead and check those out. And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. YouTube has a pretty cool video waiting for you over here. Our latest vlog is down below. For those of you new, subscribe is over here. And all of our other contact info is just right below me here. Thanks for watching.